and all that stuff's gonna be done, so, yeah, it's a busy summer,
It
but
is. item on the agenda is approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Motion by Caleb,
Second.
second by Josh. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 6-0. Second item on the agenda is approval of the regular June 9th meeting minutes. Any questions, comments, changes? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
Also moved as presented.
Motion by Josh,
Second.
second by Chad. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 6-0. Approval of the invoices. Anything in particular, Mr. Murphy?
Yeah, so we tried to get everything as updated as possible for the end of the year board meeting. We still have a couple days left in this year, but I did want to point your guys' attention to a couple items that are on here. We do have parent mileage for bringing our students in. It's on there. We have our Graduation Alliance made billable credits. Our AC gym controls, getting those all updated. That's on there. We do have a couple of big orders for our custodial supplies for next year for 25-26. So our custodian crew did a good job of getting all their supplies, what they could get for next year, ordered for this budget period. We do have the majority of our split units at Wilson on there as well. I'm saying majority because the library is not done yet. So the split unit in the library is not up. So, and then the last one that's on there is the third of the rec court refinishing that you guys approved it last year. So those were some of the big ticket items that are here at the end of the year.
I know I said it at the last meeting, but I really appreciate having custodial staff and everybody, working ahead, trying to get those costs and stuff out of this year's budget. So that'll help us next year even more. If there aren't any questions, I would entertain a motion to approve the invoices as presented.
So much.
Motion by Kayla,
Second.
second by Josh. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 6-0. Item number 5, out-of-state travel request.
So we do have a request for our FFA. They do take they're planning on their summer trip. This year that they are wanting to go to Amarillo, kind of towards southwest Kansas for some dairy visitations and meat processing plans to head down towards Amarillo and then down to Fort Worth as well. This is the time when they try to get all their itineraries done for the year and all their calendar and everything else scheduled. So it's on the calendar for them for this year. So we uploaded on there their agenda for those days and also their budget that they have to work with on there as well for you guys to take a look at. But we do have to get board approval for out-of-state travel. So.
If you guys remember last year, I believe they went to Denver. Right? Yeah.
Motion to approve.
There's a motion by Caleb,
Second.
and a second by Josh. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 6-0. I think it's awesome what Courtney is doing with Mrs. Barron. Commissioner Barron is doing with our FFA, so we appreciate that. Item number 6, fees.
So we have the list for fees for this coming year uploaded as well. Basically, our recommendation is 10% raise, 10 cent raise on meal prices. The cost of food is always going up, and we feel like we need to be at that 10 cent raise for all of our food prices going into next year for the majority of them. So you'll see on the fees document. Just real quick.
Are the Holyrood and the Wilson daycare fees the same?
We're going to try to keep those the same as possible. Yep. Our hope is we still get our Patterson grant, but we still have enough in our Patterson grant to move forward with those prices. We feel comfortable with that for next year. So, Kayla, if we happen to not get that grant this rotation, we might have to make some changes to that going into that next school year, but not this one. So that'll take adult lunches to $4.55, student pre-K through 6, $2.80, students 7 through 12, $3, breakfast for pre-K 6 at $1.65, breakfast 7 through 12 at $1.90. Breakfast for adults would be at $2.50, and then our grab and go would be at $2.
Any questions, comments, concerns? I would entertain a motion to approve fees as presented.
Also move.
Motion by Josh,
Second.
second by Chad. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 6-0. The district paid health insurance benefit.
So we're waiting on our final numbers still from Greenbush Health Trust to lock in our insurance premiums for this year. Usually by this time we have those, but they're waiting on some documentation from the Kansas Insurance Commission to be able to move forward. And the reason for that is still staying with Blue Cross Blue Shield. They're carving out the pharmacy side. It's going to create a little bit of a surplus for Greenbush. So that's good because then they'll use that surplus to buy those premiums down if they rise the next couple of years. But they're going to have to get a certificate from the Kansas Insurance Commission, I believe, to be able to do that. So that's what we're waiting on. They're still anticipating anywhere from a 1% to 2.5% raise, which is minimal compared to what a lot of other schools and facilities are dealing with. So really no recommended motion on this because we can't move forward on that until we have that finalized document. So
We'll move this to the agenda in July, hopefully.
Perfect.
So that does bleed over into negotiations a little bit because we cannot finalize negotiations until we have that number. So.
Okay, item number 8, our district property casualty and liability insurance.
So we uploaded the document from this year from Conradi Property Insurance through the KICS pool. We did see a small decrease of about $3,500 in our premiums for this year. So we felt really good about that moving forward. And I would say for the majority of schools that are in that KICS pool, they kind of saw a little bit of a decrease as well. I don't want to speak for all of them, but at this date and time, any decrease on any type of insurance is big. So we'll take that. So that is uploaded on there. Everything is comparable to last year with our individual premiums on what we're paying, pretty comparable. The one item that they did spend time talking about that I do want to draw your guys' attention to, once I get this open, is the second, the cyber coverage that would be on that document. When you scroll down, it'd be on the 1, 2, 3, 4th page, the client authorization to bind cyber coverage. We do have the current limits on there. They are offering higher limits if schools choose to go with higher limits for cyber coverage. Talking to our crew, we don't feel like that'd be something necessary that we would need at this time with option 1 or option 2. We would just stay with our current limit that's included in our premiums above. But that is an option moving forward if we would want to have more coverage on the cybersecurity side of it. So.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the property casualty and liability insurance from Conradi as presented.
Also move.
Motion by Josh, second by Dalton. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 6-0. Item number 9, our capital outlay, the pipes at the high school middle school.
Okay, so we did have Kermer Electric come in and take a look at that. They're really busy, but they did find time to slide in and look at that. We uploaded the bid to this, which was $21,439.66. This is for a few different items. So this is replacing the cold water line down that auditorium hallway. This would include a shutoff valve, to not have to shut off the auditorium bathrooms and be able to shut those off separately from the rest of the hall. This does not include the hot water line down that hallway. Whenever we talked to Marvin and Drew yesterday, they said that line's working properly. If we did decide to update that, it was gonna take a lot more time on the hotline, and they're already crunched for time the way it is. I don't know that we'd get that done before school started if we included the hotline in that as well. With that, the second part, we do have a couple of pinholes in the hot water circulating line where it comes into the building. And talking to Marvin, Drew, and Tim, it feels like we're kind of doing it backwards if we do that hot water line down the auditorium hall, but we're fixing the recirculating line coming in. They would recommend fixing the recirculating line coming in and then branching off there for the hot water lines every direction is what their recommendation is. So this does also include shut-off valves in the kitchen area to be able to shut that off separately from the rest of the building. So those were the main items included in this bid. I would classify the cold water line down that hallway as an emergency. It's not on right now. There's multiple leaks in that they're going to have to go in and fix if we don't replace that whole line down that hallway on the cold water side. So. And I think I mentioned it at the last board meeting, when that's on down that hallway and we turn water on or the toilets flush, it jerks that whole line. So we do not want a leak in a swimming pool in our house.
Any questions, comments? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the bid from Kermer Electric for the plumbing project at the high school middle school as presented.
Also move.
Motion by Josh, second by Dalton. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 6-0. Item number 10, a retention incentive for certified staff.
So here at the end of the year, one item that we talked about for one of our goals this past year was to try to find ways to retain our current certified teachers throughout the district. I think this would be a great way to be able to do that and show that we're invested in our teachers. If the board would so choose to move to where we were able to offer an incentive bonus for certified staff members that are currently staying on next year that are not resigning or retiring, for just a one-time $1,000 incentive that would be distributed at the end of this month. I think it would go a long way to showing that we're really invested in those teachers and we really value them in the district. It'd be 44 certified staff members, which when we figure everything in comes out to about $47,410. When we get to the next agenda item, that is already taken out of the transfers and balances. So if it was something we're not interested in, then we would redo the transfers and balances to put that amount back in. This would be just a one-time this year incentive that if the board so chooses in the future, we'd be able to maybe do that at the end of every year if we can afford it, but it wouldn't be something that we would necessarily have to do at the end of every year. And that would be something that would be communicated with our faculty and staff of, we value you guys coming back next year, and we value everything you're bringing to the district, and we appreciate everything you did this year. And we would hope we could maybe do it every year, but there's no guarantee that we can be able to do that every year. So, thoughts, ideas, concerns?
I think it's a great thing to do, to show our appreciation, and it's wonderful that we're in a position that we're able to do that for them too.
I agree, because every time we have turnover, it costs the district, so.
I would entertain a motion to approve the one-time retention incentive for returning certified staff members. Motion by Dalton, second by Kayla. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 6-0. Approval of the year-end transfers.
Okay, so I kind of walk you guys through this real quick. Just real quick, does everybody have access to that document? Yeah, we did update it yesterday because we did have end of the month bills that we were trying to get as much included in there as possible. Walking you through this, I want to turn your attention to where it says fund on our first vertical column, down to where it says 06 general fund and 08 supplemental general. Those two numbers are what we have left in our supplemental account, okay, and that's what we have left in our general fund that we have to transfer out. So I feel like we did a really good job budget-wise this year moving into next year, knowing that we're going to have a few cuts here and there on what we're going to have to spend out of our general and supplemental. So those two numbers added together is a little over $1 million, so our end of the year transfers have to come out to the same amount, okay? So that's where those two numbers come in, walking you through that. I do want to turn your attention to the 1, 2, 3, 4, the balance of the end of the year last year once we made transfers, the far right column. After we made our transfers last year, this is what the amounts in those accounts were for our cash balances. So when we looked at this year, we wanted to try to make those a little bit better or comparable. So if I'm walking through here, you can see the 4-year-old at risk. Our end of the year transfer this year with our balance prior to the year comes out to about $67,000. Last year after transfers, we had about $64,000. And I'm not going to walk you through this, but you can see, okay, kind of the way that we compared those to drive those numbers up to get where our end of the year balances were comparable or better. The one I do want to turn your attention to is 15 on the virtual education side. One question you might ask is last year the end of the year balance was at 13,000, and this year with our transfer we're about at 110. The reason behind that is we don't get our July billable credits from Graduation Alliance until after the first of the financial year. So last year really that money had to come out of this year's budget. Okay, I don't want that. We don't want that to happen this year, so we want to transfer that amount in there so we know we have that to cover, and it don't necessarily all have to come out in next year's. So. And I think last year that was about $105,000 for the month of June. So I don't want to look at 16 yet. I want to look at 24 food service. You can see where we're at food service wise after our transfer this year, professional development, special education. I want to talk a little bit about special education, guys, because this is a concern for me moving into next year. This year, our rates are going up about 17% in our consortium, okay, which about $65,000 more next year that we're going to have to spend on special ed. So when we talk about legislation for next year and is our public education fully funded, it is, but SPED's not fully funded. We have to take money out of our general fund to put with SPED to be able to fulfill our SPED services in our district, and that's every school district in the state of Kansas. They did not put a lot of new money to SPED like they did last year. So whenever we went to our last Board of Control meeting, they're anticipating a 25% increase next year. If something doesn't happen with legislation for them to put more money to the SPED side of it. I talked to Otis Bison and Ellenwood there with Great Bend. They got a 40% increase this year on theirs. So kind of a little bit of a concern moving forward, especially when we talk about legislation next year. Really want to do a good job advocating to our legislators that, we need to try to put more money in the SPED side of it to fully fund that, because we're having to take money out of our general fund to put into special education to meet all of our requirements. So just something to think about going into next year a little bit as well. Vocational, you can see where we're at on 34, puts us a little bit higher than we were last year. I'll talk about contingency in a second. Do have a little bit more in textbook. We are looking at a couple options for some new curriculum to go along with our KISA process for next year as well. So that number is a little bit higher, about $40,000 higher with our new cash balances than it was last year. So the money we have left over from those, you can see what we're putting in contingency reserve. And then also what we're putting into capital outlay. So you can see our new cash balance and capital outlay is about $1.2 million, and then our new cash balance for contingency reserve is about a little over $830,000. So I want to spend some time talking about capital outlay a little bit. So next year, whenever we get to our budget, we're going to be talking about your authority to spend and the cash balances we have. We want to make sure you have the authority to spend the cash balances that you have. So right now we have $1.2 million in there. We have about $1 million usually that comes into that account new a year, Diane. So we're looking at $2.2 million next year. We don't want our budget authority to be that high, but this year it was 1.5. So we're really gonna have to have a conversation whenever we get to budget about pushing that authority for you guys up to about the 1.7 with some of the things that we've talked about that we might wanna do in the district next year. So next year when we get to the budget and we talk about, well, our authority's changed and we're wanting to push it from 1.5 to 1.7, the reason is to give you guys the authority to spend that if you want to spend it. Doesn't mean you have to spend it, but it gives you the authority to spend it if you want to. So, I did want to talk about our contingency just a little bit. Drives our contingency up to about a little over 830,000. Do you see the box to the right on there? It shows the last few years of what our contingency reserve end of the year balance was. In 21-22, it was a little over 100,000. 22-23 was a little over 170. Last year we made a jump to over 500,000, and right now with our projected transfers, we're going to have $832,000 in contingency reserve. So that's really good to be able to have that amount put back in case we need it for something unforeseen into the future. So I do want to talk about supplemental general at the bottom, not the very bottom, but if you look at fund where it says 08 supplemental general, we're taking 28,000 out of that account. We have to. That still leaves, if you'll look at that third column where it says new cash balance, it still leaves $304,000 in there. That's great because what that's going to do is drive that mill levy down at the start of the year, which means in hopes we don't have to go above the revenue neutral rate. It's going to help that out. I would still recommend us making the date and approving going through the revenue neutral hearing, but at that time you guys would have the option to not go any further, just in case it gives us a little bit more time to make sure our numbers are where we want them. So new cash balances, if you look down that whole line, puts us at about 3.3 million. Last year we were at 2.4 million. So when you subtract those two numbers, the beginning cash balance above the increase is about $918,000 more we have this year than what we had last year at this time. When we add those with our driver's education, bond and interest, and then our gifts and grants as well, our new cash balance comes out to 3.6. Last year we were at 2.6, which means our total increases from last year a little under $1 million when we add those in. You might notice on gifts and grants this year we have about $98,000. Last year we had about 44. The reason that is because we have the Patterson grant that's in there that's helping with the daycare as well. So, now, we still have a few days left in this financial year, so these are just projected transfers. There are going to be a few bills flowing in that we'll still have to pay. That will come out of the end of the year transfers for either contingency or capital outlay. The other ones we would recommend staying the same. So,
Nothing big that you're seeing.
Nope.
I have one more payroll to do at the end of the month,
We
but
took
that's all
that out already.
calculated in here. We estimated that the best we can, but there might be extra hours here and there that they're working, so that payroll is strictly estimated. That's why we call this a projected transfer. So
Will that Kermer's electric come out of this budget?
it's already deducted.
Sorry. Yep. So our recommendation is for you guys to give us the authority to approve the end of the year transfers as presented, but make any small final adjustments. And then when we get to the July board meeting, we will have the final transfers to give to you guys at that board meeting.
And that's just for information only. You don't have to do any action on that. That just tells you exactly what we did.
I will motion to approve the end of the transfers as presented and allow the superintendent and clerk to make any final adjustments to close the budget.
Motion by Kayla,
Second.
second by Chad. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much, and everything's going great.
Mr. President, I move that the board go into an executive session to discuss teacher negotiations for the purpose of noticing items for negotiations under the exception for employer-employee negotiations under the KOMA with Superintendent Bobby Murphy present, and that we return to open. return to open session in this room at 8:00.
Motion by Josh,
That's only 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, you want 5 minutes?
Second.
second by Chad. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 6-0.
We'll slide over now.
Okay. back in open session. No motion to be made on the last item.
Mr. President, I move that the board go into the executive session pursuant to the Kansas Open Meeting Act to discuss non-elected personnel for the topic of certified staff and classified staff to protect the privacy of individuals to be discussed with Mr. Murphy present and return to open session.
10 minutes.
8:11, 8:12, 8:12.
Motion by Josh, second by Chad. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 6-0.
Did you second?
Alright, we're back in open session.
I move to approve the base hourly pay to be set at $18 for room daycare directors.
Second.
Motion by Chad, second by Josh. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 6-0.
I move to approve a 5% increase in salaries and classified staff.
Second.
Motion by Chad, second by Josh. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 6-0.
I move to approve the contract for Shay She for CPES principal as presented.
Second.
Motion by Chad, second by Josh. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 6-0.
I move to approve the contract for Karen Moore as Wilson Elementary principal as presented.
Second.
Motion by Chad, second by Josh. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed, same
Aye.
sign. Motion passes 4-2.
Go ahead.
I move to renew the contract for Jess Murphy as CPE junior high, high school principal as presented.
Second.
Motion by Chad, second by Josh. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 6-0. Open agenda items.
So we talked about our bus purchase. Since then, there's been a tariff charge added to that naturally of $6,500 to the price of the bus. This takes the price of the bus to $171,481. Just a friendly reminder that the portion of that total is going to be refunded with the grant that Jamie was approved for. We just need consensus of the board to move forward at that price. I would recommend moving forward at that price because I think all it's going to do is get higher from here on out. And if we can get it locked in, quicker we can get it locked in, the better off we're probably going to be in the future.
You have consensus.
Okay.
Alright, anything else? If not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Also move.
Motion by Josh, second by Chad. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 6-0. Thank you, everybody.
Help yourself to rules. I'm not taking those home.
I'm taking one of them.
I was gonna say, I'll grab one on the way.
Yes, please. Or sit here and eat it. Had a diploma or something. Oh, you got